Did you know that in the state of Pennsylvania, it is illegal to sell a car on a Sunday? You can still write up the contract, you can decide all the details of the deal, what you're going to pay and when, but you can't actually sign the paperwork until Monday. Did you also know that, again, in the state of Pennsylvania, it is illegal to fish with your bare hands? Yeah. In addition, you can't use certain fish as bait. For example, goldfish and koi fish. Yeah, so like the big pet fish, you're not allowed to use them as bait. And did you also know that even if you didn't know those things before today, you were still bound by them? And so even if you didn't realize that it was illegal to fish with your bare hands, if you did it and you were caught, you would still be in just as much trouble as you will be from here on out. Because American courts have decided that ignorance of the law is no excuse from the law. Now, church law works a little differently. So for example, it's illegal under church law if you're opening a business or an organization to call it Catholic unless you get permission from your bishop. And now that I've said that, you are bound by it. So before today, if you had wanted to open a bakery called Hot Cross Buns, a Catholic bakery, then you could have, and the church would have said, okay, you shouldn't have done that, don't do it in the future, but we realize that you didn't know that. But from now on, you can't do that, unless you ask Bishop Senior first. So sorry about that. A great example to illustrate the idea of ignorance within our law is the story of an Inuit tribe leader in the 1800s who was approached by some missionaries. They went up north and they started preaching about the gospel. And they were telling the people, you need Jesus and you need to be baptized in order to go to heaven. And the entire tribe was very receptive. They were like, okay, great, like, I want to go to heaven. And everything that you're saying about this Jesus guy, like, he sounds awesome. I want in. And then the tribe chief started thinking, and he said, listen, I'm really worried because all of our ancestors, they obviously never got baptized. They never heard of this Jesus guy, so are none of them going to heaven? The missionary said, oh, don't worry, because they were ignorant of this. They had no way of knowing. And so God knows that they didn't know any better and that they were doing their best. So it's still possible for them to go to heaven. And the chieftain tilted his head and he said, well, then why are you here? It's a great question. Why do the missionaries feel the need to go and preach the gospel to people if we have this idea of ignorance? Why baptize people if, as long as we don't tell them they need to be baptized, they could just get away with it? And the answer is found in our readings today. God tells Ezekiel something very similar, that if God tells Ezekiel that this man over here is sinning, and Ezekiel doesn't tell him, then it's not that man who's responsible, but Ezekiel. This is that principle of ignorance. That if no one tells someone that they're sinning, then they aren't the ones who are responsible for that sin. If you don't know it's illegal, if you don't know it's wrong to take something without permission, then God doesn't hold that against you. He holds it against the people who should have told you. But we do tell them because of love. Because we as Christians need to understand, we need to hold that the Christian life is better than the non-Christian life. So we don't get people to be baptized because then they're trapped and then they have to follow all the rules. We baptize people because being baptized is better than not being baptized. And if we don't believe that, then why are we here? Why are we spending an hour every Sunday just to check off a box? Because we need to believe that there's a reason. We're all too eager to correct people so that they'll follow the same rules we do. When someone cuts us off in traffic, I know I, for one, would be all too eager if I had a chance to talk to them and be like, hey, what you did was wrong, and I'm following all the rules of the road, and so do you, because it's completely unfair that I'm turning my turn signal on, and I'm zipper merging onto the highway, and I'm doing all these things, and you aren't. That's not fair. But would we be willing instead to tell them, hey, it's really dangerous if you merge without putting your turn signal on, or if you pass someone on the right because they might not see you, and then you might get into an accident, and I don't want you to get hurt. How willing would we be to say that? To correct them out of love? And so today, Jesus is telling us to correct one another out of love. All of us are here today, hopefully, because we feel the joy of the gospel. And so Jesus tells us when our brother is sinning, to help him, not to beat him over the brow with it. If a member of our family or one of our friends isn't coming to church on Sundays, our job is not to tell them, hey, I spend an hour of my life every single week at church, and it's really not fair unless you do too. It's to tell them, do you realize that when we go to church every Sunday, we receive the body, the blood, the soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ in the Eucharist? And what an amazing gift that is, that Jesus comes to us and dwells within us. How wonderful is that? Invite them to live a better life out of love. So today I'd like to encourage all of us to consider, why is it that we're here? Are we here to check off a box because someone else told us that we had to be here? Or are we here out of joy? And if we're here out of joy, are we willing, out of love, to share that joy with our brothers and sisters in the world around us?